Score more with the college-branded Venmo debit card and earn up to 5% cash back with Venmo Stash. Got paid back? With the Venmo debit card, you can instantly access your balance and spend on what you want, like game day snacks, gear, tickets, and more. The more you do, the more cash back you can earn. Plus, there's no monthly fee or minimum balance. Sign up now at Venmo.com/collegecard. The Venmo MasterCard is issued by the Bancorp Bank N.A. Select schools available. Venmo Stash terms and exclusions apply at venmo.me/stash terms. Max $100 cash back per month.
For the News and Observer, I'm Dawn Vaughan, and this is your Under the Dome look ahead for Monday, November 1st, 2021. Our look aheads each week tell you generally the 3 things to watch out for in North Carolina politics, and perhaps you've heard of these things before: redistricting and the budget. So maps and money is what's going on this week at the legislature. Slight variation, so it's still worth listening to. Like what you've heard in past weeks, things are a little bit different. Negotiations are a little bit different. Maps are a little bit different. And we're also looking at money in a different sense this week with a GovOps meeting coming up. So I'll start off with the budget, which I joke is everyone's favorite topic. It's a topic that maybe sounds boring in theory, but in reality affects all our lives, as I like to say, from, yes, teacher, say employee raises, what's built, what's not, what's funded, what programs happen, what just the billions of dollars in taxpayer money and how that is distributed and allocated across the state. So we are, like I said, it's November. The fiscal year started in July. People who spend a lot of time at the state legislature know that some years pass, there's a continuing resolution. So it's not like the federal government where everything shuts down in North Carolina. It just means the spending levels are the same as previous years. So that's a problem when you want to do new things or you want more money. So where we are at this point now is probably step 7 in the several month-long budget process, which was the House and Senate, which are both Republican majority, coming to an agreement on the total spending amount. And then each chamber passed its budget. And then their conference budget, which the last time in 2019 with the big budget battle with Governor Cooper, who's a Democrat, the conference budget was passed with, it's a Republican majority, so it's pretty easy for them to pass it, what their priorities are. And then Cooper vetoed it. And then there was the long drawn out, what ended up being a stalemate at the end. So Governor Cooper, Senate Leader Phil Berger, House Speaker Tim Moore said several months ago that this year, this biennium would be different, that they would negotiate with the governor before passing that conference budget. So we're still in that, but we're getting closer. So as I record this on Thursday evening, a few days before you'll listen to it, we're at the point where Cooper has given another counter offer. Speaker Moore is ready to go. So at the end of ready to move forward with some sort of budget. Cooper wants to keep negotiating. So we'll see how that ends up. So there was just a one-day House session this past week. There were no votes at all. There was only one bill, a Kidwell bill, that ended up being pulled. And, who knows if we'll see that on the floor again. But afterward, Speaker Moore told us the Capitol Press Corps reporters that will gaggle after with him, told us that he had indeed met with Berger and Cooper in person at the mansion. They had quiche. It was a breakfast meeting. And Democratic Minority Leader Reeves and Senate Minority Leader Blue were also there. And when they meet in person, that means we're getting closer. It means they're not just trading these offers back and forth. They're getting down to, we need to do something. So that's where we are. And then on Wednesday, Cooper had a COVID presser update, and he told reporters that he was sending, maybe even as he was talking, his next offer. And what he said, what my question for him at it, if you listened to that press conference, was, is this the final round? How many rounds are we going with offer, counter offer, offer, counter offer? And the governor said, until we reach an agreement, nothing should be final. So where we are this week is that Cooper, we'd assume, has actually delivered that proposal back to the Republican leadership, and he wants to reach an agreement. And more, what he told lawmakers at the end of session, what he told reporters a few minutes after, is that the House is ready to move. If there's no deal with the governor, that they will pass a legislative budget. And by that, he means the conference budget. There was no Senate session this week. I haven't talked to Berger, but what Berger has said in the past months is that if they all are still dedicated to these. They've said the phrase good faith negotiations. That's why they won't tell us what's in the documents, but we can more or less know what's in the documents. And Moore said that Medicaid expansion isn't in there, this latest Republican offer. But Berger said he'll move forward with those small budget bills, the piecemeal budgets, the mini budgets, whatever you want to call them, which is what happened last time. And that is really going to bog things down. So they're still trying to get to that one big comprehensive budget. So will we see it this week? To be determined. To be determined. What we will see this week is a lot of House sessions. Speaker Moore told lawmakers that there'll be votes on Tuesday, there'll be votes on Wednesday, there'll be votes on Thursday, and there'll be votes on Friday. So Thursday is known as Legislative Friday because that's the last voting session of the week most of the time, unless something big is going on, and that's why they would have voting session on Friday. And it's maps, redistricting. Will Doran has written extensively about this. Tyler Dukes, if you listen to our in-depth episodes of Under the Dome, the special edition podcast called Monster within Under the Dome, he takes you through all of redistricting, gerrymandering, history, past, present, all of that. You can, whatever platform you're listening to this episode on, you can go back and listen to Tyler's Monster episodes about maps. So we're looking like map votes are going to happen. So maps are happening. Money in the budget, are we going to see the documents? Maybe, ideally. But is it probably going to be another week? Yeah, I think so. So the other money factor, though, something that's definitely happening that I mentioned at the beginning, is GovOps. There's a meeting on Wednesday morning, and it's about COVID federal money spending. So that's interesting because if you recall, the legislative sessions early in the pandemic last year was primarily just to spend a ton of government money that was COVID relief on multiple levels. And there have been multiple bills. That's something that they've worked pretty well overall with Cooper on, and he signed those. And the state budget that's been held up all these months also has federal COVID money in it from the American Rescue Plan funds this year. So there's been several rounds of federal money that the state has allocated, and we'll see what happens at GovOps on Wednesday, which is their they usually use the auditorium to it's kind of sort of a congressional grilling room of going over spending, and you can fit a lot of people in there. So, and that involves both chambers. So we'll see how that goes. The Senate, as of, like I said, I'm recording this on Thursday evening, has not planned its week yet or made that public yet. They're still figuring that out. So even if the House wants to do some sort of movement on the budget, and even if the House wants to have all these votes on maps, the Senate is also a key player here, and we're not sure what they're doing yet. So big things to watch for: maps and money, as always, a recurring theme this fall. Federal money, which is a little bit of a different spin on things, and we're actually getting closer to the end of redistricting, the end of the budget, and maybe even the legislature adjourning for the holidays. Will the holiday be Veterans Day, Thanksgiving Day, Christmas Day, New Year's Day? We don't know yet, but we're getting there. Things are getting closer. So this week will be a busy week, potentially hopeful week. We'll see what kind of deals are made, what kind of the billions of dollars of all of our taxpayer money, where that's actually going to go, what the maps are going to look like, so people can decide if they're going to run for office or not in the legislature or Congress. So lots to look out for, and should be a really interesting week in North Carolina politics. So for the News and Observer, I'm Dawn Vaughan. Thanks for listening.
For For more from our politics team, subscribe to the News and Observer at newsobserver.com/subscribe. Follow us on Twitter at Under the Dome and NC Insider, and sign up for our weekly political newsletter at newsobserver.com/newsletters. Thanks for listening.